Monday, April 29th, and the crew of Expedition 35 is hard at work on board the International Space Station. Starting off with the current Expedition 35 commander, Chris Hadfield from the Canadian Space Agency. He's working over in the NanoRacks payload on board the station, which has a number of different science experiments from a wide range of disciplines. He'll be working with the microscope inside of the NanoRacks, doing some analysis on some of the crystal plates found in one of the modules. He'll also be doing some microbiology air sampling on board the station as part of the ongoing checks of the health system on board, and also doing some crew departure prep as Commander Hadfield prepares to return home from the International Space Station about 2 weeks from now on May 13th U.S. time. He'll be joined by Flight Engineer Tom Marshburn and Roman Romanenko. The three have been on board the International Space Station since launching back in December of 2012. Moving on, throughout our crew, we have our Flight Engineer 1, Pavel Vinogradov. He'll be busy inside of the Russian segment today working with that recently docked Progress resupply ship. He'll be transferring out some of the cargo from that Progress 51P docked successfully back on Friday, and he'll be working to unload some of the items that were delivered to the station. He'll also be working to transfer some fluids over to the also docked 50 Progress vehicle before moving on to a study a little bit later today of the cardiac bioelectric activity while at rest. That'll be a task all three of our Russian cosmonauts, Vinogradov, Mazurkin, and Romanenko, will be doing in concert. Flight Engineer number 2, Alexander Mazurkin, started off his day very early this morning doing some saliva and blood collection for biological studies on board the station to track the human body's progress throughout long-duration spaceflight. We'll also be doing some routine computer updates to a number of the controlling laptops throughout the Russian segment. Also doing some hardware monitoring with the Russian Matryoshka experiment. That's a radiation monitoring experiment named after the famous Russian nested doll sets. NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy also starting his day off very early this morning, right out of bed, doing some urine and blood sample collections and then storing them inside of the -80-degree freezer. And then right now he's working with the BASS experiment. BASS standing for the burning and suppression of solids. It's an ongoing investigation that it looks to examine the burning and extinction characteristics of various fuel samples in microgravity. So that'll be taking up most of his time today. Meanwhile, our third Russian cosmonaut, Roman Romanenko, right off the bat started with the Sprut experiment. It's a Russian look into how the body adapts to the zero gravity environment and the unfavorable impact that generally has on how well their body stays hydrated. Aside from that, he'll be doing some handover work a little bit later with one of the newer crew members, Alexander Mazurkin, as Romanenko prepares to depart a little bit later in May. And he was also working with the countermeasure system inside of the Russian segment, the Zvezda service module, checking out for any harmful contaminants. And our final crew member, Tom Marshburn, working with the environmental health system on board the International Space Station, taking some surface samples throughout, looking at the microbiological footprint of many of the surfaces throughout the U.S. segment. He'll be collecting those and incubating them in a device on board the station. He's also on the hook to clean out their potable water dispenser, and then finally do a little bit of crew departure work alongside Commander Hadfield as he also prepares to return home on May 13th. Our upcoming coverage for all of the landing events, kicking off with Sunday, May 12th, where we'll have the formal change of command ceremony, where Chris Hadfield will hand off command of the International Space Station to Russian cosmonaut Pavel Vinogradov. And then on Monday, May 13th, throughout the afternoon and the evening, we'll be bringing you coverage as that Soyuz departs, starting off with hatch closure and ending with their eventual landing in Kazakhstan.